Ken and Murli Gopal haplessly didn't get the information and they were tricked to come here for no reason. I told not to bar actually. What verse number are we reading? 27? Have we been reading Preaching is the Essence now, or it's only become after Mangalarti?
Last 2 days we did.
Should we do that, or should we not do that? If one was to put one's hand behind the book of Bhaktisiddhanta's Upakhana Upadesh over there, you'll find some of these. Can I have one? Thank you. Can we rip open all the boxes and make all the sounds now at one time? Are there more boxes coming?
All the boxes came out, they have to be lifted up, opened up, stand up, and put on the floor.
Okay, so you choose a section for Bhagavatam class. So we'll start section 5. One who preaches Krishna consciousness is dear to Lord Krishna and is protected by the Lord. So this is the Hamsaguhya prayers, which were already existing in the Vedic literature, offered by the newly reincarnated Prajapati Daksha. He didn't have a goat's head this time around, but he got into trouble again with Narada Muni, not liking Narada Muni's activities ultimately. And he cursed Narada Muni, which ultimately became a curse for the entire renounced order of life, that they could not remain anywhere in one place for more than 3 days. So in this case, Prajapati Daksha was offering these nice prayers, but his ultimate desire was to create progeny, which he had been ordered to do by Lord Brahma. So creating progeny is not ultimately a bad thing. It's a good thing that gives, two parts. Everybody who gets a human birth certainly gets a chance to get another chance to be Krishna conscious. Of course, in Kali Yuga, most everyone misuses that opportunity. But more than that, if one tries to create progeny, so those progeny are devotees of the Lord, then that's a very, very great service to the Lord. So here the Lord is very pleased with Prajapati Daksha, and he's benedicting him, and this you will find in the 44th verse of that 4th chapter of the 6th canto. Prabhupada says this: if one gives the conditioned souls a chance to become Krishna conscious, All his activities are approved by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is extremely pleased. Balavanta Prabhu was asking Śrīla Prabhupada, he was forming the In God We Trust political party. He was asking Prabhupada, so what should we say, What kind of things should we, we're dealing in politics, or we're running for office, or we're meeting all these different people. It's not a direct or a standard preaching program. And Prabhupada said, whatever you do, whatever method, whatever you say, if the end result is that you get them to chant Hare Krishna, then whatever you did is perfect. Similarly, Lord Nityananda encouraged Raghunath Das Goswami after the triumphantly successful Panihati festival, chipped rice and yogurt festival. He was encouraging Raghunath Das Goswami, that's Lord Chaitanya's mercy, great mercy, that he's accepted all of these dealings, or funny dealings. So, we're working together, or we should all work together as a team. Ultimately, is ISKCON, and even greater, Prabhupada wanted all of the whole Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, in whatever they're placed in nomenclatures, to jointly cooperate to spread Krishna consciousness movement all over this world. So that's the ultimate aim, is to give the conditioned souls a chance to become Krishna conscious. All of his activities are approved by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is extremely pleased. Following the examples of the previous acharyas, all the members of the Krishna consciousness movement should try to benefit the conditioned souls by inducing them to become Krishna conscious and giving them all facilities to do so. And we were hearing how in the 7th canto that a sannyasi should not be enthusiastic to create temples. He should be more interested in publishing books. But temples are actually the next step in, next step and or according to the condition, it's a simultaneous necessity. One, to give shelter, Prabhupada said, to the serious candidates or aspirants to the platform of actual pure devotion. They need to live in the temple. And the temple is a place for association of devotees, sadhu sangha. Lord Chaitanya was asked, what is the definition of a devotee? Asat sangha Vaishnav. How does that go? That you give up the association of the non-devotees. And the only way to give up the association of non-devotees is to take the association of devotees. Prabhupada writes in one place in the 4th canto that anyone who is trying to live outside the association of devotees or outside the association of ISKCON is living in a great, and at the same time be Krishna conscious, is living in a great hallucination. He uses that exact word, hallucination, because it is not possible. One cannot give up the negative without accepting the positive. So, creating temples and centers where devotees and the people in general can come to take the association. Prabhupada said that the temple or the center is a place where people can come, of course, to learn about Krishna consciousness, but the core, the real thing is so that they can get association of devotees, and they also can give up the association of the non-devotees in the material world by coming to the center. And Prabhupada would give that as a panacea. Come live with us. We will solve all your problems. So that is Śrīla Prabhupada, and we should, when it says here, give all facilities to do so, it's not just take a young man or young woman and just, we have to be able to prepare to take care of everyone throughout their entire life, just like there's been a great problem in our movement. What are we going to do with old devotees or retired devotees, and not just, big devotee, guru, sannyasi, or rich devotee, they're going to be taken care of, and everyone else, well, you should just seek self-help measures, Prabhu, figure it out for yourself. And because devotees have surrendered their lives to this movement, and especially since the Industrial Revolution, led by Carnegie and Rockefeller and Ford and all these people, they've just created a hellish pandemonium where everyone's forced to work and slave. They become less than Sudras. Prabhupada said that we're like dog. A dog is completely dependent. Has to, gets everything by handout. So, you're given a doggish education and a doggish mentality, even with a big, big degree, going to some fancy university, and then you have to go and beg for employment, and you get whacked in the nozzle saying no vacancy, get out, just like a dog. Whereas previously, everyone would live off the land, and that was not a very hard life, because how much do you really need to work to just grow enough food to survive? And it was simple living and high thinking. So now, because the entire world pretty much is enslaved by this demoniac, industrial, Prabhupada was telling at MIT, what is your knowledge? How to hammer, that's all.
Yes.
Technology, So that's why Prabhupada wanted farm communities so much, to give shelter to the devotees and give shelter to people in general. It's described in the last day in Kali Yuga that people will be so much harassed by the government, taxation, they'll simply be like legal plunderers. They'll create laws, so-called legal, but it's just tricks to take away everyone's hard-earned wealth. And people will be just so much harassed that they'll just try to go to the wilderness to survive. So, this is a way that the Lord is very pleased if one gives all facilities to the conditioned souls. Niranjana Swami, for example, one of his glories or his excellences, and he's even written a book to this title, Caring for Lord Krishna's Devotees. Right? How to take care of Krishna's devotees, from Shraddha all the way to Prema, from birth to death, and everything in between. So if one does like that, then the Lord is extremely pleased, and all of his activities are approved. Following the examples of the previous acharyas, all the members of the Krishna consciousness movement should try to benefit the conditioned souls by inducing them to become Krishna conscious and giving them all facilities to do so. Of course, the ultimate facility is simply one's bead bag and a place to chant. Just like one of the most materialistic person famous in most amazing conversions, not only a materialistic person, but a person caught in deviant espionage or a calculated plan to try to destroy a devotee, the prostitute converted by Haridas Thakur. He gave her, a very simple dwelling place. You just simply sit down in front of the Tulsi plant and chant Hare Krishna and make rapid spiritual advancement. And Prabhupada said, no one should miss this opportunity. So, of course, Tulsi plant and a place to chant is nice, but more facilities are required, generally speaking. But a pure devotee, he ultimately is happy in any situation. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that one who's not dependent on an ordinary course of events and is not affected by so many dualities, such a person is very, very dear to me. But to help people to get to that position, we have to be conscious to make right facility and take care of devotees and people in general. But of course, to guide everyone to take shelter in the things that will give them, it's like we were hearing the prayers by the members of the assembly and the properly set right in the first incarnation of Daksha when he got the goat's head. Lord Vishnu appears in the sacrificial ceremony of Daksha. The members of the assembly, they're describing how this world is very dangerous. There's always the mirage of illusion and allurement of false happiness is always trying to trick us, and we're living in this material world without any shelter. We're praying for all these conditioned souls. When will they come to your shelter? And Prabhupada describes that Lord Chaitanya, he is the greatest friend of every living entity, and the workers in this movement who follow in his footsteps are similarly the greatest friends of the people in general. So to guide people to take shelter of their real friend, Lord Chaitanya, to get them to chant Hare Krishna and to read the books of the greatest representative of Śrīla Prabhupada, and hence the greatest representative of Lord Chaitanya, and hence their greatest friend, Śrīla Prabhupada, and take Prabhupada's blessings and association by reading his books, by which all their problems will be solved. That's also something that we need to do. Not only get the books into people's hands, but to inspire them also to read them. As the Lord himself confirms in Bhagavad Gita, for one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees, devotional service is guaranteed. I think Chauncey Street is starting to happen downstairs, so clean air. It's a very rare commodity, right? And at the end he will come back to me. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. Hare Krishna. Are the doors open or the window open? Or just the fan? Huh?
Fan and doors open, doors are closed.
Huh?
Doors are closed and the fan and window are open.
The door is open.
Maybe the door should be open. It's mine.
The back door.
Back door. And the other doors are closed. Okay, I got it. Right. That's very good. Text 27. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Nastapareshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Divinity and Divine Service, Chapter 2 of the first canto, verse 27. Rajas, Tama, Praktaya, Sama, Śrīla, Bhajanti, Vai, Patir, Bhuta, Prajasadin, Shriya, Aishvarya, Praja, Ipsava. When you read the Sanskrit in the word-for-word translation, a lot of times it's easier than trying at first looking to read the standard Sanskrit text. Actually, Jayadvaita Maharaj years ago gave a instructions on how to give a proper Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam class, and one of the things he said was that you should read and practice the Sanskrit before, not that you come there and you're like gulp and duh and so anyway, I didn't do that today, so pardon me. Rajas Tama Praktaya Sama Śrīla Bhajanti Vai Pirtir Bhuta Prajasadin Shriyeshvarya Prajapsava Rajastama Praktaya Sama Śrīla Bhajanti Vai Pirtir Bhuta Prajasadin Shriyeshvarya Prajapsava Rajastama Praktaya Sama Śrīla Bhajanti Vai Pirta Bhuta Prajasadin Shriyeshvarya Prajapsava Rajas, the mode of passion. Tama, the mode of ignorance. Praktaya, of that mentality. Samasila, of the same categories. Bhajanti, do worship. Vai, certainly. Actually. Patir, the forefathers. Bhuta, other living beings. Prajesh Adin, controllers of cosmic administration. Shriya, enrichment. Aishvarya, wealth and power. Praja, progeny. Ipsava, so desiring. So could I have the 11th canto part 2 and our deluxe Bhagavad Gita? The Bhagavad Gita can be put on this table right over here. And the 11th canto could be put over there.
11th canto part 2. What chapter?
Chapter 29, Bhakti Yoga. Everyone, let us say together, those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance, worship the forefathers, other living beings, and the demigods, who are in charge of cosmic activities. For they are urged by a desire to be materially benefited with women, wealth, power, and progeny. Śrīla Prabhupada's purport. There is no need to worship demigods of whatsoever category if one is serious about going back to Godhead. Very good. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verses 20 and verse 23, it is clearly said that those who are mad after material enjoyment approach the different demigods for temporary benefits, which are meant for men with a poor fund of knowledge. We should never desire to increase the depth of material enjoyment. Material enjoyment should be accepted only up to the point of the bare necessities of life and not more or less than that. To accept more material enjoyment means to bind oneself more and more to the miseries of material existence. More wealth, more women, and false aristocracy are some of the demands of the materially disposed man, because he has no information of the benefit derived from Vishnu worship. By Vishnu worship, one can derive benefit in this life as well as in life after death. Forgetting these principles, foolish people who are after more wealth, more wives, and more children worship various demigods. The aim of life is to end the miseries of life and not to increase them. For material enjoyment, there is no need to approach the demigods. The demigods are but servants of the Lord. As such, they are duty-bound to supply necessities of life in the form of water, light, air, etc. And the following sentence is put in, what would you call this, Christian? It's not italics. What is this for? Different type of printing.
I'd say that's italic. Emphasis.
It's, you know,
It's italic.
that's italics.
Yeah, but it's slanted.
Slanted. It's in, so it's, in other words, we should take special note of the next sentence. One should work hard and worship the Supreme Lord by the fruits of one's hard labor for existence, and that should be the motto of life. Or the motto of life should be, one should work hard and worship the Supreme Lord by the fruits of one's hard labor of existence, for existence. One should be careful to execute occupational service with faith in God in the proper way, and that will lead one gradually on the progressive march back to Godhead. Lord Sri Krishna, when he was personally present at Brajadam, stopped the worship of the demigod Indra and advised the residents of Braja to worship by their business and to have faith in God. Worshipping the multi-demigods for material gain is practically a perversity of religion. This sort of religious activity has been condemned in the very beginning of the Bhagavatam as Kaitava Dharma. There is only one religion in the world to be followed by one and all, and that is the Bhagavad Dharma, or the religion which teaches one to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead and no one else. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmalitam Dina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopicha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Surato Pangor Mamamanda Matergati Matsarvasva Padambo Jo Radha Madana Mohano Dibyad Brindaranya Kalpadrumada Śrīmad Ratnagara Sringhasanasto Śrīmad Radha Shilagovinda Devo Pestalavi Savyamano Smarami Śrīmad Rasa Rasarambi Bamsi Bhatta Tatastita Karshan Venu Svanar Gopir Gopinatha Shriye Stuna Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshvari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Rajastama Paritraya Samashila Vajanti Vai Pitir Bhuta Prajay Sadin Shri Aisvarya Prajay Sava. Those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance worship the forefathers, other living beings, and the demigods who are in charge of cosmic activities, for they are urged by a desire to be materially benefited with women, wealth, power, and progeny. So Prabhupada's statement here in the beginning, there is no need to worship demigods of whatsoever. Interesting, you think whosoever, whatsoever. Category if one is serious about going back to Godhead. So Prabhupada directs us to look at Bhagavad Gita in the 7th chapter, Knowledge of the Absolute, verses 20 and 23. Kaimaistaster ritagyana prapadyante nyadevata tam niyamam astaya prakritya niyatasvaya. Those whose intelligence has been stolen. It's an interesting way to look at it, that intelligence should be clear and steady and just fixed on Krishna. Narottam Das Thakur, his 2 books, Partana and Prema Bhakti Chandrika, make it completely and totally unnecessary to study any book of psychology or how the mind works, because everything is just boiled down into one. Actually, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was a college dropout. Did you know that?
Yeah.
He was going to Sanskrit college, and because he was, well, briefly speaking, proved himself a lot more smart and intelligent than even the president and dean of the college. And he was caught while they were studying all this fancy stuff, sneaking under the table reading Prema Bhakti Chandrika and Partana. which his own spiritual master, Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji, took as his sole possession, and said that being Krishna conscious is very easy. You just take 4 annas and go to the marketplace and purchase these 2 books. So there, Narottam Das Thakur says, arrested around the neck by the highwaymen of lust and greed, a pure devotee cries out for the Lord help us and is saved. O devotees, continue to cry out in that way, and then the calamity of repeated birth and death will come to an end. And ultimately, Prabhupada remarks in this purport that the ultimate benefit of Vishnu worship is liberation. And there are so many leelas and stories that show that only Vishnu can give complete liberation, no one else. What to speak of Durvasa Muni, such a powerful yogi. He could ultimately even go to Vaikuntha. He goes to the 2 topmost demigods. What to speak of Indra. He goes to Brahma and Shiva, begging for relief from the Sudarshan Chakra. The same Vishnu who can save you, he can kill you. If someone wants to kill you, if Vishnu wants to kill you, no one can save you. And correspondingly, like Prahlad Maharaj, if even the greatest demon wants to kill you, Hiranyakashipu, you won't touch a hair on the head of his body. Hiranyakashipu was just, who is he being protected by that I can't get to him? It was very, very morose. But just like all material illusion, let's try it again, Sundar Market. He's just a little boy. What do his words mean? Let us thoroughly indoctrinate him with all our materialistic education. And then when he grows up and assimilates our instructions, he'll forget all this nonsense, Krishna Bhakti and devotional service. But of course, when demons make a plan and are confident about it, it backfires in their face. And Prahlad converted the entire school. They had a big problem on their hands. Those who are freed from all render unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their natures. So Prabhupada says in the purport here that the demigods are duty-bound to supply necessities of life in the form of water, light, and etc., that they are simply supply agents, ultimately delegated and empowered and answerable to Vishnu himself. And Prabhupada gives the motto, one should simply worship the Lord by the fruits of one's hard labor. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, whether one is a sannyasi living in the forest or a householder living at home, whatever one's position, if he cries out the name of Lord Gauranga, I want his association. There is no more fear of the age of Kali. I want his association. So those whose knowledge is stolen, they become attracted to worship demigods. And in this Kali Yuga, which is a very dark and vague and unclear time, like those who were, Prabhupada was speaking to one high-ranking Indian government official in Bombay in 1977 that the benefit of being born in India is that, no, he was speaking in Chicago, 1975, and the question came up, about birth in a certain place. How many people in the world believe in Krishna consciousness? He said how, he has his followers in the Western world, and 10,000 followers, 5,000 committed, and then the question of India came up. India, everyone's already Krishna conscious. That everyone knows that just even the simplest person, that there's a next life, and that they're obligated to their karma. They better be good, like that. But of course, the leaders now are spoiling the people in India. This is, of course, 40 years ago or more. Just we see that most people in India, they don't have ekanta bhakti. They're not fixed in their intelligence, and they think to worship demigods, or that demigods and Vishnu were all one. This is one of the offenses, to equate the names of the demigods to equal to or independent of the holy name of Lord Vishnu. Not understand Vishnu, Ekala Ishvara Krishna Arasavabrita. This is actually a great offense, and it's symptomatic of one who has his real intelligence stolen and has given himself to uncontrolled material desires, urged on for wealth, women, progeny. Forgetting these principles, foolish people, the aim of life is to end the miseries of life and not to increase them. Whereas akamasava kamovam moksha kama udaradit tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham. That whether one has all material desires, no material desires, or in between, whatever one's position, one should worship the Supreme Lord. And Krishna will handle it in such a way that you'll come out all right in the ultimate end. Even those who have material desires and who resort to the Supreme Lord are not so much attracted by external nature because of approaching the right goal. They soon also become free from material lust, all material lust. Yeah, here it is. It's quoted in this Bhagavad Gita 7:20. This is Bhagavatam 2.3.10. It is recommended that whether one is a pure devotee and is free from all material desires, is full of material desires, or desires liberation, he should in all cases surrender to Vasudeva and worship him. Less intelligent people who have lost their spiritual sense take shelter of demigods for immediate fulfillment of material desires. Generally, such people do not go to the Supreme Lord because they are in lower modes of nature. Following the rules and regulations of worship, in particular demigods, they are satisfied. The worshippers of demigods are motivated by small desires and do not know how to reach the supreme goal, or what to speak of what the goal is, or what the benefit of achieving that goal is. But the devotee of the Lord is not misguided, because in Vedic literatures there are recommendations for worshiping different small g gods for different purposes. Those who are not devotees of the Lord think that for certain purposes demigods are better than the Supreme Lord. It's like, oh, let me check out my astrological chart, or, well, instead of reading the Bhagavatam and putting my mind in higher consciousness, let me look at the Facebook news feed and look what all varieties of people, who's being fixed up in Krishna consciousness is questionable or unknown, and we see their pictures and what they're doing, and it creates a type of excitement, and and it's a complete useless waste of time, Small desires. Those who are not devotees of the Lord think that for certain purposes demigods are better than the Supreme Lord, but the devotee knows that the Supreme Lord Krishna is the master of all. Ekala Ishvara Krishna Arasavabrita, only the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is master, and all others are servants. So we were discussing, Krishna Kripa Prabhu brought out some time ago that even Lord Balaram, Lord Nityananda, Mahavishnu, Advaita Acharya, they are imbued in the ecstasy of service to the Supreme Lord and recommend this for everyone. So this Ekala Ishvara Krishna Arsarvabrita appears in Lord Nityananda's chapter, The Glories of Lord Nityananda Balaram 5 of the Adi Leela, verse 142 to be exact. Krishna is master and all others are servants. Therefore, a pure devotee never goes to demigods for satisfaction of his material needs. He depends on the Supreme Lord, and the pure devotee is satisfied with whatever he gives. Vibhuti-mat sadvam mama tejo. They all spring from but a spark of my splendor. The 42nd verse of the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Opulence of the Absolute. So in the name of, extraordinary personalities have some extra vibhuti, in the name of dovetailing that in Krishna consciousness, I'm going to go to the Yankee game and see the great athletes, or I want to see, I'm going to go to this great movie, and it's like about this, the extraordinary personalities doing like very heroic things and noble things, and I'm going to like dovetail that, I'm going to relate that to Krishna, and that's going to help me, It actually works the other way around, that we uncover our great attraction to the supreme wonder and astonishment and glory of Krishna and his pastimes, and then we'll see these other things in their right perspective, and instead of going and sitting for 3 hours or spending our whole life, marveling at these things and these people, we can maybe think of it for like a half of a second and just hear, if it passes by us at all. And I remember that this movie, The Passion of the Christ, came out some years ago. Niranjana Swami was telling me this, and he was being urged by different devotees, you should see it, very wonderful, what Christ did, it's very accurate. There's so many things. And Maharaj, I don't think he even sat through the whole thing, but he just said, I hadn't seen a movie in like 30 years or something since he had joined being a devotee, and said, I never, Of course, that particular story was horrible, It's the Passion of the Christ is the last 3 days of the life of Christ, from the time of his arrest by the Jewish police to the crucifixion, and just all the torture, and just horrible. Prabhupada was in with Shamsundar in, was it Italy or it was Mexico, right? And Prabhupada was in a room with a, maybe fairly good size. And Prabhupada was crying and said, they've killed their spiritual master, take this out of my sight, Or that we don't want to see our guru or spiritual master in his worst state of suffering. We want to see him in his best, So the benefit of approaching Lord Vishnu is beautifully remarked by the great devotee, the personal friend of the Lord, Uddhava. This is the chapter Bhakti Yoga, which is the last chapter of the Uddhava Gita. And if you've not read this or heard this before, you'll hear many very wonderful things here. This is like, in a sense, even equally and in a varied way as powerful as the benedictions and false shrutis of Bhagavad Gita. Uddhava, this is verse 5 I'm starting. This is Uddhava speaking to the Lord. Who then could dare reject you, the very soul, the most dear object of worship, and the Supreme Lord of all? You who give all possible perfections to the devotees who take shelter of you. Who could be so ungrateful, knowing the benefits you bestow? Who would reject you and accept something for the sake of material enjoyment, which simply leads to forgetfulness of you? And what lack is there for us who are engaged in the service of the dust of your lotus feet? And the purport includes a verse from the Mahabharata of the Narayaniya of the Moksha Dharma in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Whatever among the four goals of human life can be achieved by various spiritual practices is automatically achieved without such endeavors by persons who take shelter of Lord Narayan, the refuge of all persons. And this very famous verse, O my Lord, transcendental poets and experts in spiritual science could not fully express their indebtedness to you, even if they were endowed with the prolonged lifetime of Brahma, for you appear in two features, externally as the Acharya and internally as the Supersoul. So demigods don't give us the liberated pure devotee spiritual master, or what to speak of becoming the Supersoul to guide us within our heart on parallel lines with the instructions of the spiritual master. To deliver the embodied living beings by directing us, the soul, him, how to come to you. According to Śrīla Jiva Goswami, Lord Krishna is 10 million times more dear to a devotee than life itself. And according to Śrīla Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, even by rendering devotional service for the total duration of 1,000 universal creations, that's the supreme life that you can have, 311,840,000,000,000 years, the life of Lord Brahma. A devotee cannot repay the debt he feels to the Lord for having awarded him his loving service to the Lord's lotus feet. The Lord appears within the heart as the Supersoul and externally both as the spiritual master and as his literary incarnation, the supreme Vedic knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Within this section, Krishna says that one who perceives me within the heart of everyone, thus duly respecting everyone as my part and parcel, he says no one can excel such a person in worship. This is the highest method of worshiping me. For him, this is the Lord speaking, who constantly meditates upon my presence within all persons, the bad tendencies of rivalry, envy, and abusiveness, along with false ego, are very quickly destroyed. By such transcendental knowledge of the all-pervading personality of Godhead, one is able to see the absolute truth everywhere. Freed thus from all doubts, one gives up fruitive activities. Indeed, this is the Lord again speaking, I consider this process, using one's mind, words, and bodily functions for realizing me. So this is why book distribution, kriyasu, by manual labor, you're using your body, your mind, and your words based on this principle to be the best possible method of spiritual enlightenment. I consider this process, using one's mind, words, and bodily functions for realizing me within all living beings, to be the best possible method of spiritual enlightenment. My dear Uddhava, because I have personally established it, this process of devotional service unto me is transcendental and free from any material motivation. Approaching the demigods is full of motivation. Duplicity, hypocrisy, cheating. It's mentioned here. Kaitava, this is kicked out in the very beginning. Kaitava Dharma. Free from any material motivation. Certainly a devotee never suffers even the slightest loss by adopting this process. All the great sages and authorities have established various methods of human progress. The Supreme Lord himself has introduced the system of Bhakti Yoga, wherein one directly takes shelter of the Lord in loving service. One who serves the Lord without personal motivation can never be defeated in his progress, and he will certainly go back home, back to Godhead in the near future. And just like Narottam Das Thakur was saying, and I was mentioning, Krishna says similarly, if in a dangerous situation an ordinary person cries, becomes fearful and laments, although such useless emotions do not change the situations, but activities offered to me without personal motivation, even if they are externally useless, amount to the actual process of religion. If a devotee cries to the Lord for protection or maintenance, desiring to continue his devotional service unimpeded, Lord Krishna accepts such apparently unnecessary appeals to be the highest religious process. This process is the supreme intelligence of the intelligent and the cleverness of the most clever. For by following it, one can in this very life make use of the temporary and unreal to achieve me, the eternal reality.
What's the verse number on it?
22. 23. Thus I have related to you, both in brief and in detail, a complete survey of the science of the absolute truth, even for the demigods. This science is very difficult to comprehend. And the reason given in the purport, because they lack full surrender to the personality of God. And keep in mind that demigods and rock stars and sports figures and politicians, they're being put in that position because they're not fully surrendered. If one is fully surrendered, one becomes a devotee, which is unlimitedly superior to having any position in this material world. Equal opulence and residence on the planet of the Lord are automatically included in devotional service. I have repeatedly spoken this knowledge to you with clear reasoning. Anyone who properly understands it will become free from all doubts and attain liberation. Anyone who fixes his attention on these clear answers to your questions, just like Arjuna had questions, and that was the Bhagavad Gita, so similarly Uddhava put questions to the Lord, will attain to the eternal confidential goal of the Vedas, the supreme absolute truth. One who liberally disseminates this knowledge among my devotees is the bestower of the absolute truth, and to him I give my very own self. He who loudly recites this supreme knowledge, which is the most lucid and purifying, becomes purified day by day, for he reveals me to others with the lamp of transcendental knowledge. Jnana-dipeshva darshayan. Anyone who regularly listens to this knowledge with faith and attention, all the while engaging in my pure devotional service, will never become bound by the reactions of material work. You should not share this instruction with anyone who is hypocritical, atheistic, or dishonest, or anyone who will not listen faithfully, who is not a devotee, or is simply not humble. This knowledge should be taught to one who is free from all these bad qualities, who is dedicated to the welfare of the brahmanas, and who is kindly disposed, saintly, and pure. When an inquisitive person comes to understand this knowledge, he has nothing further to know. After all, one who has drunk the most palatable nectar cannot remain thirsty. Through analytical knowledge, ritualistic work, mystic yoga, mundane business, and political rule, people seek to advance in religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. But because you are my devotee, whatever men can accomplish in these multifarious ways, you will very easily find within me. One who takes exclusive shelter of the Lord never suffers any loss whatsoever for his intelligent decision to surrender to Krishna. A person who gives up all fruitive activities and offers himself entirely unto me, eagerly desiring to render service unto me, achieves liberation from birth and death, and is promoted here to the status of sharing my own opulences. Uddhava replied, this is verse 37, O unborn primeval Lord, although I had fallen into the great darkness of illusion, my ignorance has now been dispelled by your merciful association. Indeed, how can rain, cold, darkness, and fear exert their power over one who has approached the brilliant sun? And it's Prabhupada's motto for Back to Godhead. Godhead is light, nescience is darkness. Where there's Godhead, there is no nescience. In return for my insignificant surrender, you have mercifully bestowed upon me, your servant, the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. Therefore, what devotee of yours who has any gratitude could ever give up your lotus feet and take shelter of another master? Obeisances unto you, O greatest of yoga. The last two verses of this chapter, 48 and 49. Thus Lord Krishna, whose lotus feet are served by all great yoga masters, spoke to his devotee this nectarian knowledge which comprises the entire ocean of spiritual bliss. Anyone within this universe who recites this narration with great faith is assured of liberation. And Shukadeva Goswami concludes this. I offer my obeisances to that Supreme Lord, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original and greatest of all beings, Lord Sri Krishna. He is the author of the Vedas, and just to destroy his devotees' fear of material existence, like a bee, he has collected this nectarian essence of all knowledge and self-realization. Thus he has awarded to his many devotees this nectar from the ocean of bliss, and by his mercy they have drunk it. So this little purport here gives a very interesting understanding of the sensitivity of the Lord. Just as a bee extracts nectar from a flower without harming the flower, Lord Sri Krishna extracts the essence of all Vedic knowledge without disturbing the elaborate system of Vedic advancement. In other words, Lord Sri Krishna establishes himself as the goal of Vedic knowledge without destroying preliminary, inferior processes that may be applicable to grossly materialistic men. Sri Shukadeva Goswami thus concludes by offering his obeisances to the spiritual master of the entire universe, Lord Sri Krishna. Rajastama pravrittaya samashila bhajanti vai pitir bhuta prajasadin Shriyeshvarya Prajapsava. Those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance worship the forefathers, other living beings, and the demigods who are in charge of cosmic activities, for they are urged by a desire to be materially benefited with women, wealth, power, and progeny. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? Spotlight's on you now. Yes.
In relation to the verse you were reading about, simply by, associating with this message, or like simply by repeating the message, he himself gets purified. That's all. Is that also the principle of the Guru Parampara, that just by repeating what the Guru says, is that the same iron and fire principle? Who is that? What Krishna is talking about?
If one turns the screw under the instruction of the expert, then the apprentice, his action is also expert. Prabhupada would say, I don't have to be an electrician to turn on this light. The electrician knows the different wires and the currents and this and that, but the conclusion is he just says, push this button. So if I say, well, I don't believe you, and why should I push this button? And maybe I should go and rub the wall over here, or something. Or maybe I have to go to school and get an electrical engineer degree before I can be qualified to push the button. forgotten. Actually, in the beginning of the 10th canto, hearing and reciting Krishna Katha is described and recommended, and both speaker and listener are equally benefited. You see, Śrīla Prabhupada, he was, said, because I was enthusiastic in hearing, now I'm enthusiastic in kirtanam, in speaking. And Prabhupada was giving Bhagavatam class every single day. And then speaking with people in his rooms, and just, how many hours, if you look on the Prabhupada folio, and I think there's even more that didn't get in there, how many hours, the room conversations, there's like however many, I think it's like 133 hours, which is not, how many Bhagavatam classes, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charita. So, anything else? Really, Gopal Prabhu.
I was just seeing like how incredible Lord Chaitanya is from that last statement that you did about Lord Krishna extracting the essence without disturbing the Vedic system. Because I was thinking, it said there that the Vedic system, it's for those who are grossly materialistic and all that. But then, if you, for those who are, we are grossly materialistic, and so in some ways, we should have gone through all those processes, of worshiping demigods and all of that. But that is highly unlikely to be, to be set up, especially here in the West. And Lord Chaitanya and Śrīla Prabhupada are so incredible that they got that essence and they made it so practical, so that it, like, the whole Vedic system doesn't have to be like reenacted in a place, like, okay, now let's worship Durga, let's worship Shiva and all of that, because you're grossly materialistic. But no, get the essence and go back to Godhead.
This is a movement of pure devotional service, which is the ultimate identity of the living being. And it's understood that not everyone is on the same level of being grossly materialistic. One who's taking to devotional service has had some contact with it in the last life, or previously even in this life. And without having to repeat the process of fruitive activity, they pick up exactly from when they left off, and they go forward. So devotional service, as Prabhupada puts in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, the second canto, whatever one's position, one should be directed to worship Vasudeva, and it'll come out. So we're not meant to promote or it's the Vedic system of worshiping demigods, create temples for goddess Durga, etc., etc. Actually, one of the main primary questions that prompted the entire Uddhava Gita was, why are there so many, you can read this one chapter, Lord Krishna's explanation of the Vedic path in this 11th canto, that, why have you given all of these different diversified formularies and different procedures, and one answer is given that for a grossly materialistic person to have sex life with his lawfully wedded wife he's making great advancement. Whereas for someone who's in the renounced door of life, this would be, like the greatest abomination. So, different strokes for different folks, but pure devotional service being promoted is for everyone. And even more that, if you don't have customers to go buy the diamond has to be there because it is the king of all jewels. And also this is Kali Yuga. It's winter time. We don't walk around in a t-shirt or flip-flops like we do in the summertime. We have to wear a coat. We have to wear proper shoes. So this is Kali Yuga, and it's where people are covered over very much. So Lord Chaitanya is the Kali Yuga avatar, Kali Yuga Pavana. He's the savior of everyone in this fallen age of Kali Yuga. And just like Prabodhananda Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, if you apply your reasoning and intellect to understanding the greatness and mercy of Lord Chaitanya, you will be find it most wonderful and astonishing. Anything else? All right, thank you very much. Antaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Hari Bol.